In the suburbs of Northern California is a family living between worlds. With one foot planted firmly in the past, aspiring homesteaders Jake and Wendy are raising their 5 young children to learn and appreciate historic trades and skills as they look together to the future. They want to show that dedication to God, commitment to family, and compassion towards others are not lost ideals, but rather the hallmarks of any truly great generation, something we can still reclaim today. As they built a life on faith and tradition, they found themselves on a unique journey, rediscovering the knowledge, ingenuity, and wisdom of older generations in their own shared quest for home. On this episode of The Roaming Homesteaders,
today I'm going to be showing you how to till your garden the right way. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting a rototiller out and turning your soil up. But if you use a rototiller too much, it can actually create problems in your garden. And I've been using the rototiller repeatedly in my yard for a couple of years now, and I need to take some remedial action to help break up the layer of hardpan that has developed a few inches down in my soil so that we can have a great gardening season next year and the plants can get down and get those roots and get those nutrients. So let me show you what I mean. Whenever you're tilling in your soil, you're churning up a layer of dirt, but the tines of your cultivator, the tines of your rototiller are only going to a certain level. And when you churn in that dirt and you go down, you're only scraping down to a certain level, and everything below that gets compacted because of the motions of the cultivator and you walking around and then of course working in your garden every year. So it only goes so deep, and then everything below that actually gets a bit pushed down. So you might look like you have a bunch of fluffy dirt on the top, and you do, but everything below that ends up settling more, and it creates what we call hardpan. Now, most plants can deal with hardpan just fine. They have shallow roots anyway, so they'll just spread out their roots closer to the surface and further out. Things like squashes and, corn even. All the vegetables that you normally grow only go a few inches deep. But if you want to grow root crops or things that require deep soil, you're going to have to take some action to get those roots through the hardpan, because they can't always do it by themselves. Some things have a very long taproot that'll force their way down, and farmers will often plant those crops as a way of effectively digging through that hardpan just by letting these vegetables and things grow down there and break it up for them. Or you can take action yourself with a proper tool. Now, the tool that I'm referring to is called a broadfork. A broadfork is a 4, 5, 6, even 7-tined tool with a couple of handles on it that enables you to get down into that dirt and pry up the hardpan. Broadforks work differently than pitchforks, shovels, and pickaxes, which cut or hack into the soil and can be hard on worms and beneficial microbes. Broadforks separate, aerate, and lift the soil instead. This is a 5-tined broadfork from Treadlight Broadforks. They're a company that I learned about a couple of years ago, and I ordered this one during the pandemic. We didn't really have good access to rototillers at the time, and I knew that I wanted to try to build some of our soil. So I bought this tool, and it was, I want to say it was about 260 bucks, so it wasn't cheap. But the reason that these tools are usually so expensive is they're made out of the same sort of plow steel that you would get when you're dealing with commercial farming implements that can really cut through dirt. So these tines are at least 12 inches long. I think these might be 14, and they're fully welded, and they're of the type of steel that's not going to bend easily when you're working in dirt and dealing with rocks. And what these do is they poke through that layer and get down there deep, and then they act as a way for you to then leverage that dirt open in a big claw. So most of the ones that I have seen have 4 tines. I opted for the 5-tine because my soil here was really compacted at the time, and I just wanted a tool that was going to last for many years. So, this particular one was powder coated, and it's It's really taken a beating and lasted well over the last couple of years. Now the way you use these forks is you take them, they're very heavy, and you're gonna punch them into the ground. Bam! And when you get them in there deep, then you're gonna leverage them out. And that's gonna allow you to break up your soil and in many cases to act in a better way than you would with the action of a rototiller. So let me show you how this works. You can see as I'm digging the tines in that I'm really getting down deeply. And as I pull it back and pop up the soil, that there's a layer of dirt from the underlying hard pan that's popping up to the surface. And it's breaking apart. So we've had some good rains here. It's breaking apart and it's mixing with what's on top. So I'm actually getting pretty good blending action by this. And if I go over it a couple of times, it's going to be very deep and a lot deeper than we would normally get with a normal rototiller. You can see that I'm actually getting really deep into the soil here. I'm going all the way up to the edge of the tines, which is you know, a good 12 to 14 inches. And the main bar that I'm stepping on is actually getting down into the dirt too. So that's really deep. You know, I don't know about any of y'all, but all the rototillers that I've ever used, I mean, the machines themselves might be pretty big, but you know, the blades, you know, you might be dealing with a 10-inch or a 12-inch blade, which rotates, which means you're only getting about 6 inches deep in the soil. So unless you're really burying that machine down, you're not getting deeper than about 6 or 8 inches. This Broadfork gets me all the way down to a foot or deeper. Now, some people ask me, isn't that a lot more work than using a rototiller? And I tell them, technically, you could think of it that way, but anyone who's ever used a good-sized rototiller can attest to the fact that wrestling a vibrating, rotating machine like that through the dirt can be every bit as exhausting as shoveling or doing something like this. So using a Broadfork like this, wedging it into the ground and then leveraging it out, can seem like a lot more work, but in my experience, you can stop and take breaks with the Broadfork, and you get the leverage action from the handles when you wouldn't normally get that when you're dealing with a huge rototiller or a decent sized rototiller like you would with a handled instrument or handled implement like this in the garden. You'll notice that once I've gone through this once and I go back and I put the Broadfork back in, that it sinks all the way up to the tines, and then I can wedge it down even further and bring up even more soil. This can be a very effective way to get those deep beds that you're looking for the deep root vegetables formed. So with that quick demonstration out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and finish tilling the entire garden, and we'll get back to you when I'm done. Well, as you can see, it took me a few hours to get the garden done. It's a 20 by 40 foot garden, and it was about 9 rows across with the Broadfork. So about 15 minutes per pass. And there's a little bit more that I would like to do to break up the larger clumps, maybe with my wheel hoe, and just kind of get it ready for more planting. I'm probably going to do garlic today, get that planted. I have it in the garage along with some other stuff, and it's just going to keep raining here, so the quicker I can get that in the ground, the better. And maybe some wheat. Might plant a little bit of wheat here since I have the ground torn up, but overall it worked pretty well. I was pretty happy with the depth of the Broadfork, and just pretty satisfied overall. Well, I hope this gives you an indication of how you can use your Broadfork to get your garden beds deeper and better turned over than you can even get with a Rototiller. So I'm pretty satisfied with this. I'm going to put a link below with Treadlite Broadforks so you can see what they offer and what they can tell you about this. And I hope the information that I provided to you today gives you a better idea of the sort of tools that are available. You know, I think a lot of people assume that you need all this motorized equipment, but you know, even a little bit of elbow grease and some, I don't want to say brute force because it really doesn't take that much pressure to get it into the ground, but you know, a little bit of effort, a little bit of time gives you some great exercise and get your beds even deeper than you can get with a rototiller. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a great day.
We hope this episode inspired your own homesteading dreams. If you like this channel, please subscribe and share it with others. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye now.